All right, welcome everyone to our October 11th City Council meeting. Before we have a roll call and establish quorum, I would like to make a note to the citizens and to the council that Laura Jo Smoley did submit a letter of resignation today, effective immediately, so that's the reason she's not going to be here due to health. So anyway, if we could have a roll call to establish quorum, Madam Clerk.
Terry McClung,
I am here.
Autumn Slade,
Here.
Harry Meyer,
Here.
Melissa Green,
Here.
Bill Ott.
Here.
We have 5.
All right, if we could have I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first thing on the agenda is we have a public hearing for the Transit Department, Eureka Springs Transit System. I believe Smitty's here to give us a little report and to start the public hearing off.
Good evening, and thanks for allowing me to do this evening. This is the public hearing for the Eureka Springs Transit System. I'm Ken Smith, or Smitty, Director of the Eureka Springs Transit System. This hearing is a requirement of the Federal Transit Administration and the Arkansas Department of Transportation. I'll read the following into minutes, and then I'll entertain any questions anyone has. With the start of 2021, transit was on unsteady ground. While the CARES Act was in full swing, we had yet to see much of the promised help from the federal government. At the time, our program manager at RDOT was slow on the ball. The reimbursements we had submitted were not being fulfilled. In January 2021, I was notified I had been assigned a new manager at RDOT, Jonna Thomas. Within a month, she had caught up past reimbursement claims, and we started receiving the promised funds. The CARES Act provided several funding areas. Starting in June 2020, the CARES Act provided 100% reimbursements for administration and operation expenses. This funding will continue through December of 2021. We were also granted lost revenue funding. With the COVID-19 pandemic, ridership across the country dropped dramatically, and also fare revenue. The CARES Act provided funding to make up for lost revenue that we would probably have received through ticket sales. Through the lost revenue grant, we were able to recoup $116,058.88. This was done by comparing the total of fare revenue between 2020 and 2019. The CARES Act also gave us 100% on capital expenses in 2020. We ordered 2 buses and 2 vans. However, due to the problems in the automotive industry, we have yet to receive those vehicles. Last March, I asked RDOT when to expect them. I was told 6 months to a year. Now they cannot give me an answer. 2021 has seen ridership return. Through July of 2021, we have seen a 14% increase in overall income and a 7% rise in ridership from 2019 numbers. At the end of August, we saw a bit of a slowdown. That's when the COVID-19 virus resurged. Question whether it was the virus or everyone who wanted out got out, it's hard to say. We also had several big festivals that were canceled because of COVID. That could have been an issue also. September also saw a slowdown, and for the first month this year, we did not exceed 2019 numbers. In 2021, we have been awarded $277,922 in capital expenses. These funds are not part of the CARES Act, and so they are subject to the 80-20 match obligation. With these funds, we are buying 1 more trolley. In fact, we opened bids for a trolley on September 24th, and the bid was awarded to Hometown Trolley, the builder of our last 9 trolleys, for $234,047. We were originally awarded $250,000 for this trolley, but the bid came in below that award. With this trolley and the buses and vans we are expecting, our fleet will be up to date. All vehicles are in what's called federal interest, meaning they are in their useful life. I don't see a need to purchase a vehicle for at least 3 years. We still have 2 support vehicles that have reached their useful life, according to the feds, but they're still good vehicles with low miles. We have also ordered another support vehicle, a Toyota Camry hybrid. With this will replace an old vehicle our buildings and grounds person has been using. He will take one of the older trucks we have, and our managers will use the new hybrid to do their transit business. We're looking forward to using this technology. But with the industry as it is, we don't know when we will receive it. The cost of this vehicle is $27,992. We have also requested funding for 10 additional stop benches. We have had a few destroyed by auto accidents, and these benches with the Eureka Springs Transit engraved on them cost $680 each. We requested $7,500 for these benches, which should cover the cost of benches and the freight costs. These expenses are an 80-20 match, with transit needing to cover $53,907.80. This capital expense grant, by the way, was approved, and we can spend that money. Looking ahead to 2022, we are assuming that the federal government will go back to the 80-20 match on administration costs and the 50-50 match on operating funds. With that in mind, we are requesting the following for 2022. In administrative expenses, we are requesting a total of $351,610. These expenses include salaries for supervisors, insurance, advertising, physicals, and other administrative costs. The match obligation will be $70,322. Operating expenses, we are budgeting a total of $751,500. These expenses include driver, mechanic, and customer service representative salaries, fuel, vehicle maintenance, uniforms, building supplies, and maintenance. From this, we subtract our fare revenue, which I have guesstimated at $233,600. This leaves an amount of $517,900. Of this amount, the feds will pay 50%, $258,950, leaving the same amount to transit to find. Combining capital, administration, and operation match obligations, this leaves us a total match of $384,856. We still receive $167,600 from the Public Transit Trust Fund provided by the state of Arkansas towards our match obligation. This leaves $217,256 transit must find. We do that with our parking lot revenue, ad sales, and our historic tram tours. The tram tours continue to be a very popular attraction, and many guests enjoy the tour. As always, transit is a subrecipient of the federal funding, the Arkansas Department of Transportation being the recipient. All funds come through the state, and it's their duty to make sure all federal compliances are met. This includes all documentation on spending, our drug and alcohol testing program, the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, the Americans with Disability Act compliance, just to name a few. There are many hoops to jump through to receive federal funds, but without them there would be no transit in Eureka Springs. This concludes the report and public hearing. I'm always available to answer questions or comments about transit. I'm available by email, phone, come by the office. I'm happy to speak about transit. At the time, I'll answer any questions anyone has. Yes, sir.
I made 3 notes. One, did you have a price increase?
We did not.
Okay.
I think next year our tram tour will probably go up. But as far as fare revenue, trolley tickets, they've remained the same for last 5-6 years maybe. And I
Good.
don't see any increase in that right
Okay.
now.
Next one is the new trolley Is that a guaranteed price because the
Yeah,
delay?
that's the bid price, $234,000. That's what they bid, and that's what we will pay.
Is that the same on the other vehicles that are going to be late, or are they going to,
No, they've already been, those vehicles that are late were paid 100% by the CARES Act.
okay, so,
And
I
all I
mean,
had to do was order them, but like I said,
yeah, we don't know when we'll get them,
We don't know when
but
we're gonna get
there's no way they're going to charge us anymore on those. We're
No.
not, nothing's going to be hidden. That's all was curious on
yeah,
those.
once the bid is put in, that's the bid.
Okay,
And the state, they do a list of vehicles that they put out bids on from different dealerships. There's probably a list of probably 100 different types of vehicles we could order. And that bid is set.
good.
So that will not increase. There'll be no hidden fees on those.
Thanks, Minnie, appreciate that.
Anyone else have a question? Is there any questions from the public? All right, Smitty, thank you very much, and with that being said, I consider this public hearing being closed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if I can get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, any additions? We do have one item under new business, item number 2, the ordinance regarding the music festivals. It's not quite ready yet, so we'll defer that to our next meeting.
How about the resolution?
Oh, I need to add, Parks has a resolution to add sales auction for some surplus material. So we'll put that under the new business, number 4. Anybody else? If not, all in favor of the agenda as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Get a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes for September 27th, 2021.
Okay, Ms. Green made the motion. Who was second? Mr. Ott made the second. Any additions, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we do have several vacancies. We have vacancies in the Planning Commission, CAPC, Hospital, Parks. So if you're interested in any of those positions, please come in and ask for an application, fill out an application. These positions are all voluntary, and our city just operates on volunteers. We couldn't do it without your help and without your knowledge and going through here. So please come in and help us out, especially with the Planning Commission and also with the Parks. We may have 2 positions available on the Parks. I'm not sure yet, but we got one for sure. So that brings us up to public comments. Please limit your time to 3 minutes. And please state your name and address.
My name is Rita Wessel. I reside at 1 Eugenia Street here in Eureka Springs. I moved here in 2008 after retiring from over 26 years' experience in career and volunteer fire departments and fire service education. I base the opinions herein on that experience. The proposed combination of a working fire station and community room is neither wise nor necessary. The downtown fire station, I understand that's Station 3, is a relic of the hand-drawn hose cart era. That's when it was built, and it's served its days well. Station 3 location is not staffed. What that means is volunteers have to drive down in their own personal vehicles, get on the apparatus, and then get the apparatus out. Well, we all know how traffic is downtown most of the time. That's going to be a tough say for somebody that's trying to get down to the station on 110 octane adrenaline. So it can be The station is too small to house 21st century apparatus. The apparatus that's in there now barely fits. It barely fits. As far as a joint use, recognize that when every meeting will require movement of equipment, that is, you take out, trucks out, park them, set up, tear down of tables, chairs, AV, etc. Based on my personal experience of long years, it takes about an hour each way. The station contributes little to making a rapid response or fireground operations. We have a capable combination fire force with a well-located station, modern equipment, and on-duty staff, and I suspect the response time from West Van Buren to downtown to be about 3 to 4 minutes. Because of the problems cited with Station 3, and the problems I just listed, it is likely that the West Van Buren Station's firefighters and equipment, including the critical aerial ladder, will be on the scene downtown before any response from Station 3. In closing, close this station and convert it to a full-time single-purpose meeting room. It won't harm public safety, and it's something the community needs badly. Thank you very much for your time.
Doug Bishop, 126 Oak Ridge. I want to thank you ahead of time if we do pass this ordinance. Thank you. Now we need to move on to the second problem, enforcement. We have little or no enforcement of code. What I've seen is selective. On our street alone, one guy gets fined, shut down, stop work orders. Right across the street, a guy's pouring concrete, building retaining walls, making parking pads, adding to the back of his house, no permits. It's okay. I mean, and I'm sorry, Bob Ray, but you do not have to fill out a form to make a complaint, and that's per the municipal league. The reason I'm saying that is we have several women, single women, on our street who call me all the time, Doug, come do something. Call somebody. Because they're afraid of what that person might do to them. I mean, we need enforcement. Don't let the little things go by because it turns into a big thing. Thank you.
Is that it?
What's over? Didn't know I had to run up to the front of the room. May I be excused? Can I make a comment tonight?
Please, ma'am.
Thank you. Sorry. If I'd known I had to come up front and done it, I would have. Pat Matsoukas, 5 Mountain Street. Good evening. You know, a funny thing happened to me when I got cancer. It made me less afraid. It made me more assertive about things that are going on in our community. And the truth is, this council can make a motion that the mayor has to follow. You could do that. You can say to him, we want this or we want this, and he will have to follow that because that's how this works. This idea of doing the fire department thing in the meeting hall across the road, what a waste of our money. I'm sorry. In this day and age when we don't even know where our dollars are coming from, we're going to reform that little building. We should sell it. We should be buying a building that's going to house more than 30 people in there. How many people will we get in there? Not enough. If we had a big city meeting and there were 1,000 of us here, where would we go? Not across the street. Number 2, I go to council meetings out at Beaver, Arkansas, and they have their meeting in the fire department. I cannot walk in there because the smell is so bad, it permeates everything. When you smell that gas, all those fumes, I can't do it. And I don't think other people should have to do it either. I really wish you'd reconsider this. Several months ago, we had the opportunity to buy the old high school property. The CAPC had $127,000 of unspent money. The community center said, we want to get off the hook. We only want to pay $100,000 for this property. I wish that the mayor and the council had stood up at that time and said to the school board, we want that property for our city so that we could have overflow parking, city offices for meetings, the right stuff for ourselves. We don't put ourselves first. We don't even put ourselves equal with tourists. We are behind the times here, my friends. Next year, I hope the CAPC is voted out, and I hope it's voted in as a tax that the city can control. The council needs to control the budget of every department in this city. You need to have oversight to it. You need to know what's going on with it and control it. Parks can do what they want. They're 3 years now, and they're in the state police being investigated. Where are we? And one other thing. Was there one other thing? No, I think I hit the brunt of it. I thank you for your time.
Anybody else? That concludes our public comments. Brings us to ordinance number 2311, prohibiting new tourist lodging for the third reading. Get a motion to,
I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules and read ordinance number...
We need a motion to discuss first.
Okay,
I mean,
all right,
it's follow
all right.
protocol anyway.
All right, I'm sorry. I'll make a motion to
just to
discuss ordinance number 2311.
Second.
All right, motion discussed by Ms. Green, second by Mr. McClung. Comments?
I'll make a motion that we read ordinance number 2311 for its third reading.
Suspend?
Suspend the rules and read ordinance 2311 on its third reading in title only.
I'll second.
All right, get a motion, Mr. Meyer, and seconded by Ms. Green.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yep.
Ms. Slane?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes?
Ordinance number 2311, an ordinance prohibiting tourist lodging and properties located within any residential zone and amending Chapter 14 zoning of Eureka Springs Municipal Code to redefine tourist lodging.
I'll make a motion to approve on its third reading.
I'll second.
Mr. McClung?
Yes?
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Yes.
5-0.
Okay. That brings us up to ordinance number 2312, the removing members from city commission for the third reading.
Make a motion to discuss
Second.
ordinance 2312.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? I can get a motion to suspend the rules and place 2312 on its third reading.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and place ordinance 2312 on its third reading by title only.
I second.
And discussion? All right.
Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes?
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
5-0. Ordinance number 2312, an ordinance providing for the procedure to remove members of city commissions.
I move to approve on its third reading.
I'll
Get a second? Did I hear, was that you,
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Ms. Green made a motion to approve ordinance 2312 on its third reading. Mr. Myers seconded. Any further discussion?
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes?
Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Yes.
5-0.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies, for that. All right, moving on to our new business. We have information from our police chief regarding volunteer police and Mr. Meyer, and I believe our police chief Young's here to answer some questions and give us kind of a rundown. And I know there's some confusion sometimes what voluntary and temporary and certified officers are, so,
Right.
Chief?
An auxiliary officer, reserve officer is the same. It's the same name, okay? Whether you call them auxiliaries, reserves, volunteers, it's all the same. They have to have the same level of certification. An auxiliary officer has to, as far as the hiring process, they go through the same hiring process as a full-time officer, as a full-time employee. They have to have the same interview process, the same, the panel of their peers, like anyone else in our department goes through, whether it's officer or civilian as in dispatch. They have the same background checks. They have to have a physical along with the drug test, and they have to pass the psych exam also. The difference between, and I know this is a lot of confusion parts on this, as far as authorities between a full-time officer and an auxiliary officer. Whenever that auxiliary officer is on duty, he's no different than a full-time officer. He has the same authority as a full-time officer. The difference of them is a full-time officer, within 6 months of your hire date, you have to be scheduled to be sent to the academy, to get sent off to the academy for the school. And with an auxiliary officer, it's a state-level training. The state mandates it, sets the class, everything else. We teach it in-house. We have to get it approved through the state to be able to teach the class. You can either teach it in-house, you can open it up for other agencies can also. A lot of times within this county, like if one agency is hosting a auxiliary or reserve class, if we have candidates, we will sponsor them. Doesn't mean we hired them, it just means we sponsor them so they can go through the class. They have to go through this on their own time. Generally takes about 2 months of their own time on off days. Usually what they'll do is they'll schedule them 3 days a week, usually 2 nights during the week and then on a Saturday. And it's a 110-hour class. Once they go through that class, once they pass that class, of course there's a test at the end of the test, or a test at the end of the class, and they pass that test. If we like that officer, then we can choose to go ahead and hire them. But then that's when they have to go through all the background checks and everything else. And then, like I say, the difference between them is they don't get paid. They have to put in at least 16 hours a month. They have to donate their time 16 hours a month. And they go through a year probation period. So whenever you have an auxiliary officer on, or an auxiliary officer can't work unless there's a full-time officer on duty, period. That's throughout the state. There has to be a full-time officer on duty before an auxiliary can work. Generally for that first year, they're riding with a full-time officer. We don't have any auxiliary officers here that are on their own. The officers that we have, auxiliary officers that we have on, all have over 10 years experience that are on their own. What other questions did y'all have about auxiliary? I can sit up here and just ramble on about auxiliary officers, but did y'all have specific questions you wanted?
Are they eligible for lot fee?
They are, but not the lot fee that as full-time officers we have. It would be the same volunteer lot fee as what, like the fire department has. It's that same volunteer lot fee.
Uh-huh, okay. So that would apply to Bobby?
Yes, Bobby's, and the thing about Bobby is it kind of confuses a lot of people. Bobby kind of wears two hats. As code enforcement, he's actually part-time. There's a full-time, a part-time, and an auxiliary. A part-time has the same level of certification as an auxiliary.
Does he get part-time pay?
He gets full-time because he has two jobs. He's part-time building inspector, part-time code enforcement. And then on
Well,
weekends, he
yeah,
will
that's right,
donate
but
his
that's,
time.
but that's comes from a different department. It doesn't come from the police department. It's not in
No.
your budget.
No, it's not in my budget. He has his own budget.
It's a different
It's
budget.
divided.
It's
Yeah.
under the mayor.
Right. It's divided. So his authority would be part-time. But then he donates his times on weekends for events or something like that, and he comes out and
Uh-huh.
works.
Okay.
But he also explained, if I'm not mistaken, Chief, in order for him to issue citations, he has to be
Yes,
certified officer.
yes, yes, which he is.
That's not the message I got from the municipal league. That code enforcement does not require a badge. There are many code enforcement officers in the
My understanding is
state.
for him to issue citations.
Mhm.
Now, I may be wrong about, is that,
Well, if he issues a highway citation, but I mean,
no,
if it's
any
a code.
citation, that he's got to go to court.
Right.
He
'Cause
has
he's authorized to write state statutes.
Yeah, just by being the code enforcement officer.
And
Why-
and because he's essentially auxiliary, because he has that training, he can work up to 24 hours
Well,
under
there's,
code enforcement.
I'm sorry, it's just that
Mhm.
he does not have to be attached to the police department at all. He can be a code enforcement officer there and write code violations. I got a written opinion from the
Mhm.
municipal league. So, anyway,
Right, now, that would be under city ordinance,
I don't
correct?
Okay, Mr. Weaver?
I think what you're kind of bantering back and forth is he has the ability to enforce code provisions that allow them that are not considered to be misdemeanors without that. But he needs that extra authority to write, and a good deal of our code is actually classified as misdemeanor, and he would need the badge to be able to do that. He can write fire codes or building codes as long as they're just codes without the extra authority. But a good share of ours are adopted so that they're actually ordinance violations. You have different levels of crime. An offense doesn't take it.
Well, I was
but
thinking
a
of-
misdemeanor takes it the secondary
I
level.
was thinking of building codes and
Well, some of those are misdemeanors.
junk in the yard sort of thing that the police department doesn't do anything about.
They don't, they have, some of those they do, some of those they have the misdemeanor authority to do. And some they don't. Some are just code violations. But there's a three-tiered system of crime. And
Okay, I got a question. Here's a good one. Say someone's not, the house is within 500 feet of the sewer line. In fact, they're within 50 feet of the sewer line, and they're still on a septic tank, and the septic tank overflows. They should have hooked up to the sewer according to code. But no one came to them and said, hey, you're in violation, you should be hooked to the sewer line.
Now, when there is notification, and we have notified that, and in particular, you've pointed out to our attention, those persons have had to hook up to the sewer line. So sometimes we're not aware of some of those situations, Mr. Meyer. So, now, if they're over 500 feet, that's a different issue, as you're well
Of course it is. Of course,
aware. I mean, so the 50 feet,
there's a map.
but we're talking now about the police chief, and it's not the building
Yeah.
inspector.
And I'm just wondering who can enforce these things, if the police officers can enforce them, or write citations, or if it's strictly left to Bobby Ray to do.
Like what he was talking about, what Mr. Weaver was just talking about. Generally, what we are going to deal with is crimes or state crimes. We can deal with certain city ordinances because we're city officers. But generally, when it comes to some of those code violations, some of them, and what he was talking about, the three-tiered system, what we kind of look at it is it a court, not a criminal court matter? Is it a civil court matter? That's kind of how we look at some of the things. Is it something that this property owner, are they having to sue this person? or is it this a criminal matter that we can go cite them and stick them into court for?
Okay, I think I understand that. Yeah. All right.
All right, Mr. Ott?
Question, do you see a need for these other officers, these volunteer officers here in Eureka Springs? And if so, how many, what will they be filling in for? What?
Auxiliary officers work, one of the two primary things that we like with auxiliary officers. One is, like if you have certain officers sick, especially if they have enough training that they could be on what we call on their own. It doesn't mean that they're the only person out. They're still another full-time. It means they can be in a car on their own, answering calls, because they still have the same authority. But if they have enough training, that helps take some of the load off of us as far as officers for calls. One of the other things that works real good is, and we've seen all these, especially with Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue and everything else, it gets more people on the street, whether it be traffic control or anything else. One of the other things that it works good for is, lack of a better term, a hiring pool. Okay? That way, because you've been in Eureka Springs long enough to know that we're different than a lot of other towns. Okay? Whenever you have someone that's been in your auxiliary program and they're aware of how Eureka Springs works already, so to hire an auxiliary into a full-time and then send them off, they have a better grasp, and you're not having to spend so much extra time training a new officer. And it makes a really good hiring pool.
So there is a need for what we have now or additional, or?
Oh, of course. I'd like to have more. Actually, I've talked to my guys about putting in on another class, so maybe we could get a couple of more.
Okay.
Because some of the auxiliaries that we have, even though they're really good and they're really good about coming out and everything, they have really good full-time jobs. They're not wanting to be full-time officers. But there's others that do want to be full-time officers, and that's usually to get, like I said, lack of a better term, getting your foot in the door is starting with an auxiliary program.
How many do you have?
Right now? Right now we have about probably 4 really good auxiliaries. We're fixing to kind of whittle down a few of them. That's kind of done their time and not getting a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
we're going to whittle that out, and we're going to make room because we want some good working auxiliaries.
How many people are on your staff?
Paid staff?
Well, police officers, I guess.
Full-time police officers. Counting myself, I believe we have 13 officers. Then you put about 4 or 5 auxiliaries in there. We have 4 dispatchers right now, still looking for a 5th dispatcher.
It's a big staff.
And we got a pretty good
Pretty
sized
big,
staff.
yeah.
So approximately
They work hard.
17 full-time
Yes,
in the department.
yes.
And if we can get another dispatcher, which we need, then, yeah, make it 18.
Everyone's been kind of running and chasing their tails here lately.
What happened to the bike cops?
They're still around.
We loved them.
Yeah, they're still around. We've got, we're doing some training with a newer guy right now. So
You got a gal on foot.
yeah. That's something that we've been discussing. All of our bicycles
I mean, that's okay.
are fixed. We have one downtown during the week. They meet up or overlap on the weekend, and then, of course, then you have Lance also. But Lance is down here on the weekends, but then during the week, sometimes he has to come up and cover some patrol time because we're still a little bit short.
Are you saying Lance Allworth is a bike copier?
Lance Park?
Lance Allworth, he's a bike?
Different Lance.
Yeah, different Lance. Yes, he plays double roles. He does a little bit of everything.
Well, I think the bike cops provide a really in-touch You
That's
know,
what we're trying to
what you
get
need
back, and that's what we've
downtown.
been trying to, and I've been
Yeah.
discussing with the mayor. Trust me, we have been working on this for over a year, trying to get all this stuff back in place.
Pre-COVID.
Because that's what we want to get back, because a lot of people, when they come to Eureka, that's what they're used to seeing, these guys down there on bikes, interacting with them, and we're trying to get that back.
I'm glad to hear that, because we
No,
do need
We
that.
really are. We're
We
trying hard.
do need that.
We are.
I think council needs to understand too, or remember, and Chief, correct me, but when we were doing with COVID, we also had a lot of, your department went way down. I don't remember exactly how many, but we were lacking, and we had a hard time filling positions and getting enough officers, period.
Right.
And it takes a certain officer to be a bicycle cop.
Yeah, yeah,
And getting them into
Seriously.
shape. You know, it's not like we're on the flatland, so
exactly.
some of them, you know, we get them and then they're not really qualified for the bicycle.
Right, we need almost an e-bike.
Well, that's-
And I'm one of them. I'm not qualified to
The
get on a
e-bike is
bicycle.
a good the e-bike really is a good option.
It is. We've actually, it has been mentioned to me. It has been mentioned to me.
He can even do it, you know?
They are a little pricey,
Are they?
and they're not, of course, I mean, they're a lot cheaper than some other things that you look at, but they're a little bit pricey compared to other bicycles. We've got good bikes right now, and not that I would say that would be out the window on future things, but I'd kind of like to get the downtown thing done first. I don't want to put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
No.
And then also, we realized too that our bicycles wasn't real friendly for women police officers.
Oh,
So we had to adjust the bicycles.
yeah, the size.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
just got that back, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they height limitations and how tall that top bar is, we kind of had to
Yeah.
change some of that, because, you know,
They couldn't get off.
yeah. We can't make them taller.
Exactly.
This is something that the chief and I have been working on. I mean, I've been really pushing it, because it's like, I think council and downtown people really like to see the bike cops back.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's just part of our charm that we have, and there's nothing better than see a bicycle policeman chase down a motorcycle to issue a citation.
And it's one of those things, it's like, Murphy's Law always applies. As soon as we get something in place, someone throws a monkey wrench in it, and right back to the way it was, so. We're trying. We really are.
Truth. Well, I appreciate everything you do, and your team does.
I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Everybody's been super nice.
Does anyone have any other questions or anything for me? Like I say, if you do, shoot me an email, call me, anything. Y'all got my number. Just call. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Brian.
Is that 911?
Yeah.
Okay, that brings us up to our next item, discussion of council budget committee. Mr. Meyer, get a motion to discuss.
Motion to discuss.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Meyer.
Every year, I bring this subject up, and I think it's been thought of as something that we have a couple of council members privately meeting together and adjusting the budget or something, but no, those would be public meetings. And we could then sort of look closer at the budget than what we get on December 1st. Because we'll have more time if we create one now, and we can see the line items of different departments to, find out where the money goes. And the public, since they will be public meetings, will find out where the money goes to. It would be a good thing for the city.
We are coming up with our, as mentioned, and Mr. Clark, Finance Director, talked about, we've got our annual budget coming up, and if the council wants to have workshops, we can always have the workshops to go into those budgets, and there's nothing wrong with that, and that's something the council can do. Mr. McClung?
Yeah, Lonnie said that he was going to try and have those to you by the first of the month, and I think it would be good if we did have a workshop in regards to those preliminary budgets when you get those before you do the presentation in, before we get it the 1st of December. So, that way we'll be a little prepared for what we're going to be seeing. I know we don't have to approve it until, by the 31st of January of next year. But, the earlier we get our eyes on it, I think the better it would be for us to get on board with whatever it is.
I agree with you completely, Mr. McClung. That's something I've always tried to stress with our department heads and with Lonnie, getting the budgets out to the council as soon as possible, because it is an important item and it's something y'all need to think about.
If we just get a rough draft of each department's budget, what they're, trying to do at a workshop, it would help us and the public understand.
Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that, and as soon as Mr. Clark can get us, because there's also revenue, it doesn't do much good to have a budget if we don't know how much money we have to spend. We've gone through that in the past, and that's like writing a check and not knowing how much is in your checkbook. So as soon as we can get that, and I'm urging him to get as soon as possible. Unfortunately, we have had some turnover in his office, so he's pushing and stressing a little bit, but we're going to get it as soon as possible. I can guarantee that. Mr. Ott?
On the budget, I'm not an accounting major by a long stretch. Things that always helped me was the executive summary at the front of budgets. It kind of explained if something has been changed drastically, what the need is. We're putting more money here, why that is, and those kind of things. That way it kind of spells out, instead of being pages and pages and pages of numbers, it kind of gives us a head start on what the major changes are and why they're being changed. So if that could accompany it, that'd be wonderful, at least for me anyway.
So we'll try and do that in there, trying to make it as simple as possible. I understand, and especially this time of the year, because we'll also have our capital budget along with that, with the departments too, that we'll have to be considering at the same time. So.
And I think that makes it much more transparent also to the people out in TV land, out in the city, if they kind of have a list of what this budget represents and what the differences are and why those differences exist.
Yep.
So are you proposing we have a
I'm
workshop?
sorry, I can't.
Are you proposing that we have a workshop
Well,
as a
let's
full
make,
council?
absolutely, as soon as we can get the budgets where I can, Mr. Clark feels comfortable in having something to give to the council, I'll let the council know and we can have a workshop. At this point, it's going to be kind of premature to say, let's have a workshop in a week or 3 weeks, because hopefully, he said we'll have it, but as soon as we get it, and I'm pushing him almost every week on it, so. But yes, Ms. Lane, that's exactly what I'd like to do, is have a workshop for the council.
Okay, I think that'd be nice.
So, anybody else? All right, get a motion to discuss Parks resolution.
I did not get.
Motion to discuss.
I'll second.
All right, this is a new resolution that I just added tonight. It came in last week. The council gave us a resolution, 3-4 months ago for disbursement of some other items that the parks had in Public Works, Police, Fire Department. These are some additional items we discovered from the parks. And so because of that, and to be able for us to remove them from the asset inventory, we have to have a resolution authorizing the disposal of these items. So, is there any questions on that? Mr. McClung?
One thing, first, two things actually. The first is I made a motion to discuss. Did anybody second it?
I'll second.
I'm sorry, I thought I heard the second.
I second.
Oh,
I thought you did.
Okay, I didn't hear it
Yeah,
either.
Ms. Lane seconded. I
Okay.
thought I heard one, I just didn't repeat it. Sorry.
Now, that brings me to my question, and that's to that list that we went over before,
Yes.
several months back. Whatever happened?
We are still we're now trying to figure out how to auction that off. So we haven't,
The way we've always done it before is sealed bids.
yes, and I think we're doing the sealed, no, we're not doing sealed, we're doing the bids through, on items, but it's not listed, I mean, it is the sealed bid system, you're correct. And I've got to find out, I think, Kim, I'm going to have to depend on you. You've been helping us out on that. Can you come up and, I forgot where we are. We keep,
I believe that the department heads that have assets to sell have selected to go with an online bidding service. It's secondhand for me, secondhand information, but I believe that they're going to do an online. I don't believe that any of those items are worth more than $10,000 at the highest end, and most of it is a lot less than that.
So we're allowed to do that? I mean, I've never known us to do
Yeah.
that before.
we can do that, and several communities do that, and that's what I was thinking about, was online bids.
I mean, like eBay or something of that nature, or
No,
we do
it's
it
a
our own?
special, it's another service that puts it out for community, for government on there. It's not an e-based. Missouri does it. There's some other cities in Arkansas that does it too. So we were trying to figure out how to handle that because some of the merchandise was at each individual location, so we couldn't do a auction like we'd had
Really not
before.
enough to do that.
We had had an auction before at the police station and had one out there at the old Ramada. And so this time, I think they came up with the online bid system. So that's where we are.
Okay. I didn't know that we were able to do that.
Yeah. All right, if I can get a motion, if there are any other questions about the resolution?
I'll make a motion that we assign the resolution a number and read it into passage.
I'll second that.
All right, Ms. Green made a motion and Ms. Lane seconded to sign a number and read into passage. Any further discussion? Hearing none. So do we need a vote for it?
Voice is okay, right?
It would be best to do roll call.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought it was.
Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes,
5-0. The resolution number will be 806.
And you say 806?
Yes.
Correct.
A resolution authorizing the disposal of surplus city property through auction. Whereas the City Council recognizes the importance of accounting for capital items disposed of through means of auction, and whereas adherence to the previously established fixed asset policy disposal of assets, which determined that city assets, quote, shall not be sold without competitive bidding if the amount exceeds $5,000, end quote, will have been satisfied. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, that Section 1, the City Council shall accept the monies realized through the auction of the following vehicles and equipment: 2004 F-550 dump truck, vehicle identification number 1FDAF57P64EA 78242. 2006 T190 Bobcat skid steer, no VIN. Board Buster hog trap, no VIN. And Game Changer hog trap, no VIN. Section 2, the above listed fixed assets shall be removed from the City Parks and Recreation Department fixed asset inventory list once each sale is completed.
All right, thank you. All right, that brings us down to agenda setting. All right, public comments, council comments. Mr. Ott?
I have nothing this evening, Mayor, thank you.
Ms. Green?
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Lane?
I just want to say that I'm going to miss Laura Jo. I'm saddened that we're missing a team here.
Yeah.
But as far as the rest of the town goes, I think we've been more steady than we've ever been through any year. So things are up, things are looking good. So I'm excited about that. Thank you.
Mr. Meyer?
I am too sad to lose Laura Jo. I hope that her physical problems get ironed out, because she's really been hitting bottom a few times lately, and we want to keep her as a citizen anyway.
Mr. McClung?
I wanted to ask you about the update on the band shell. Didn't you tell me before that that it was out for bids?
It's not out for bid, but it's being ready for bids. I'm meeting with Kevin Runge, the chairman of the parks, this week, and talking about some other items on Basin Park. But I know we had talked about it, getting ready to get contractors working on it.
And the second was an update on Black Bass Lake. What's the status with that grant? We received the grant, same as it was last week. No change from the last time we talked. Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. I want to read Laura Jo Smoley's letter. I think we'll miss her. She's been a vital part of our council for this term, and she certainly will be missed. I received this, and it was a shock when I received it. I know she's having some health issues, but she wrote today, says, Mayor Berry, please accept this letter as my notice of resignation as Alderman from Ward 1, Seat 2, effective today. It's been an honor to serve the citizens of Eureka Springs in an elected office. The amazing and diverse community is close to my heart. Making this decision was not taken lightly nor without deep reflection. My effectiveness as a council person would not have been possible without the support of the city department and their staff, especially those whose offices are located in City Hall. Sincerely, Laura Jo. I know our thoughts and prayers are with her during this time, and so I hope she will, this will allow her a chance to sit back and recover. I will note that in case the new people are interested in how to handle this vacancy, it's up to the city council to elect a new member. We usually ask for resumes from the city, from the citizens. They have to live within Ward 1. And if you're wondering where Ward 1 is, you can look on the city website, and they have a good exact dimension on where that is.
It's on the left-hand side of the homepage.
On the homemade side, and it's basically from Vaughn Street west, out toward Miles Mountain. In essence, there's some little particular items in there. Mr. McClung?
Mr. Mayor, can we add that to the agenda for next meeting?
It already is.
That discussion?
It's already by state law, it's the next meeting.
It's
where you-
required.
It's required by state law.
And it's
Perfect. That
in your
covers it. Thank
package.
you.
I'm just making a note for the public out there who's interested and who lives in that area to start thinking about if they would like to be on city council, to start putting a resume together and an application and submitting it to City Hall. And so then we'll bring it up to the council next meeting. Well, we won't have those ready, but we'll certainly go through the process.
It happens at the next meeting.
We don't have all the applications by the next meeting. I think that says, doesn't it, that we have to,
By the next meeting.
And it's in your,
Yeah, it's,
the state code is referenced. in-
yeah.
yeah, it's,
So is that, I can't read this because it's not good. Is that correct, Mr. Weaver? We have to elect somebody at the next meeting? Or
Council
we just
elects.
nominate the,
The council has to do it the meeting after the acceptance, but the council technically hasn't accepted the
that's what I
resignation,
thought.
I think.
Yeah, so at the next meeting, it will be brought up to the council to accept the resignation.
Okay.
And then at that point, then there will be 2 weeks for the people to submit their resignation or their application. So the council has not submitted, it's like any other, they have to accept the resignation.
So how does the council formally recognize the letter that Laura Jo has provided?
They will recognize it at the next meeting, that they will accept her resignation.
Question, the applications that come in, will we see those before we get our packet the night of the meeting?
You'll get those before the vote, certainly,
Okay.
yeah. Before the nominations.
Excuse me. This doesn't say acceptance of a vacancy. It says occurrence of the vacancy. What do you think?
Well, state law, as I understand it, has been interpreted by the courts to, until the council takes an action, the vacancy is not in existence, even though the person may have resigned. A few years ago, a council in Washington County, I believe, and also one somewhere else further down south in the state, council members walked out and said, "We quit." A couple of them at a public meeting, a couple of them with written resignations. And then a day or two later, had a change of heart. But because they had not accepted by vote their resignation, they were replaced, they were put back on the council by the courts. So the council actually has to take an affirmative step to accept the resignation, is my understanding. And that would be at the next meeting, unless it was taken tonight.
I wish the law would be clarified.
Well, I think it's not, there's not a rush on here. I think what the time that we have, the next 2 weeks, to be able to have the council will be on the agenda to accept the resignation. That will still get people to thinking about it, so it's not going to be 2 weeks for them to make a decision to be on the council.
I'm not objecting, I just
So
want to
if
make
that's
sure.
enough,
I'm not objecting, I just want to make sure we follow
we did
the
that.
law.
I understand, Madam Clerk. I'm just saying this is a process, and that's what we'll have on the next agenda. So, other than that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.